Newborns generally communicate using cues. Cues are what newborns do that tell us what they want at the moment. We often hear that babies suck on their fingers when they're hungry, but that's not really reliable because babies also suck on their fingers to soothe themselves. To accurately know what your baby is trying to tell you, you have to pay attention to the combination of cues and the context. If your baby is sucking on their fingers, as well as turning towards your chest, searching for a breast or bottle, and the last time your baby ate was 2 hours ago, then your baby is trying to tell you that they're hungry. Other hunger cues include smacking their lips, opening and closing their mouth, licking their lips, bringing their fist to their mouth, and pushing their tongue out. These are the early hunger cues. The late hunger cues include crying, agitated body movement, and if your baby is light-skinned, your baby may turn red. Once you spot those early hunger cues, you should immediately attend to your baby. And the reason is babies have a hard time latching onto a breast or a bottle when they display the late hunger cues like crying. And when they eventually latch onto the breast or bottle, they do so in a disorganized manner. You're going to hear them make that clicking sound, which tells you that they're not properly attached to the nipple. And they may also take in lots of milk at once, which may lead to choking. When babies cry, their tongue gets attached to the roof of their mouth, which makes it hard for them to accept a nipple. If your baby has to cry before they're fed, they may end up sleeping halfway through the feed because they spent a lot of energy crying. That's why it's important to pay attention to the early hunger cues and feed your baby immediately you spot those early hunger cues. The next cue we're going to look at is the disengagement cue, often misinterpreted as the hunger or tired cue. If you're playing with your baby or you place them on the mat to play with themselves and they begin to turn their heads away from you or the toy that they're meant to be playing with, if they begin to squirm and become more vocal, and they woke up and ate a few minutes ago, what your baby is trying to tell you is that they're tired of the activity or they need a change of activity. When you spot these cues, you're to stop playing with your baby or change things up for them. For example, if your baby was having tummy time and they displayed disengagement cues, you could either change things up by placing them on their back or placing them on their side. Late disengagement cues include arching their back, kicking or squirming, crying or coughing. Now let's look at tired cues. Early tired cues include blank stares, staring into a distance, unfocused eyes, no longer making eye contact, no longer interested in toys or playing, becoming still, and having long and slow blinks. These are the early tired cues. If your newborn displays these cues and you know that the last time they slept was an hour ago, then your baby is trying to tell you that it's time for another nap. The late tired cues are actually more obvious than the early tired cues, so if you miss the early tired cues, it's fine. The late tired cues will tell you that your baby is definitely tired. They include yawning, rubbing their eyes and ears, grizzling, frowning, sucking on their fingers, and making jerky movements. When it comes to cues, remember, pay attention to the combination. If your baby is just sucking on their fingers, that's not solid, that's not enough to tell you something. If it comes along with other cues, then you're able to know what exactly your baby is trying to tell you. So your baby is yawning and sucking on their fingers as well, then your baby is trying to tell you that they're tired. If you miss this late tired cues, then your baby will try to get you to respond to them. But you need to understand that it's way easier for you, the parent, to respond to their early cues before they progress to the late cues like crying. Because when babies cry, you have to calm them down first before you respond to their needs at that moment, which is actually more work for you. If your newborn's body is still and their eyes are wide and bright and they're looking directly at people, trying to make eye contact with people, or they turn to your voice when you speak. They're trying to tell you that it's time to play. You should engage with your baby once you notice that. Talk to them, tell them how your day went or how precious they are to you. As your baby gets older, their engagement cues become more obvious. They'll smile at you, they'll coo at you, and they'll also laugh at you. Once you notice this, just know that your baby is ready to play with you, and you are to respond by playing with them as well. Understanding these cues will let you know what your baby needs at the moment.